We are ranking the 10 highest stud fees in horse racing history, a countdown where outrageous price tags meet legendary bloodlines. From modern American champions whose Triple Crown fame sent fees soaring, to iconic European dynasties and Japanese powerhouses commanding millions, these stallions redefined value and shaped the sport worldwide. Which superstars' genes cost the most to access, and what made breeders pay a fortune? Let's begin, starting with number 10. American Pharoah's arrival at stud in 2016 sent shockwaves through the breeding world. After breaking a 37-year drought to sweep the Triple Crown in 2015, he retired to Ashford Stud with a starting fee of $200,000. It was one of the highest fees ever set for a debut stallion in the United States. Demand was immediate and overwhelming. More than 200 mares were booked to him in that first season, and industry estimates put his potential earnings near $40 million if every foal stood and nursed. Syndication deals valued his breeding rights at figures reported as high as $70 million, reflecting both his historic achievement on the track and the commercial frenzy that followed. American Pharoah's pedigree fueled the excitement. Sired by Pioneer of the Nile, with Empire Maker as his grandsire, he offered breeders a blend of speed and stamina that was rare in modern bloodstock. His first foals drew global attention, and his fee, though lower than some legendary turf sires, signaled a new era of American commercial power, driven by headline victories, media buzz, and a syndication model that turned racing glory into immediate business. American Pharoah's impact was felt not just in the sales ring, but in the way modern champions shape the economics of the sport. Sadler's Wells arrived at Coolmore Stud in 1985 with expectations already sky-high, but few predicted the scale of his influence on European turf racing. Bred by Northern Dancer out of Fairy Bridge, he combined a classic pedigree with a graceful staying style on the track. In his first season, he attracted elite mares at a fee of £125,000 Irish pounds, and within a few years demand soared. By the late 1990s, his advertised fee reached £200,000, a figure that placed him among the world's most valuable stallions, despite never matching the headline, grabbing sums seen in the United States or Japan. What set Sadler's Wells apart was relentless consistency. Over a career spanning more than 2 decades, he sired around 300 stakes winners and dominated the leading sire lists in Britain and Ireland for 14 seasons. His sons and daughters excelled in the classics, especially over middle and long distances, anchoring his reputation as the stamina source of the modern era. The strength of his bloodline, combined with his ability to upgrade mares, made him the cornerstone of Coolmore's European dynasty and the most sought-after turf sire of his generation. Danehill transformed the global stallion business by becoming the first true shuttle stallion, flying between Coolmore in Ireland and Australia to cover mares during both hemispheres' breeding seasons. This dual calendar approach, unheard of before the 1990s, multiplied his earning potential and set a new commercial standard. At his southern hemisphere peak, Danehill commanded a fee of $350,000 Australian dollars, a figure that, when combined with his European bookings, placed his annual revenue among the highest of any stallion in history. Bred by Danzig out of Raziana, with Northern Dancer as his grandsire, Danehill offered breeders a blend of speed and stamina that was instantly attractive to both turf and dirt markets. Over his career, he sired more than 300 stakes winners, a record unmatched by any stallion of his era. The global appetite for his bloodlines drove demand from Japan to South America, and his progeny reshaped pedigrees on every continent. In 1996, a quarantine scare during transport nearly ended his shuttling days, but new biosecurity protocols allowed the practice to continue, cementing Danehill's role as a pioneer of international breeding economics. His legacy turned the stallion shuttle into a cornerstone of modern bloodstock, linking markets and multiplying the reach and the fees of elite sires. Tapit's rise to the top of American stallion ranks traces back to a simple equation. Yearling sale prices drive stud fees, and Tapit's offspring dominated the auction ring for years. By 2015, Gainesway Farm set his fee at $300,000, the highest in North America at the time. This figure was not just a reflection of his racetrack record, but of market demand fueled by data. His yearlings routinely averaged over $500,000 at Keeneland, with breeders and buyers chasing the next classic winner. The average earnings index, known as AEI, gave Tapit another edge. With an AEI consistently above 2.0, his foals were earning at more than double the average rate for their crop, a benchmark that bloodstock analysts and commercial breeders watch closely. The feedback loop was clear: top auction prices justified higher fees, and higher fees brought even more elite mares. Tapit's pedigree added to his appeal. Sired by Pulpit and out of an unbridled mare with a P. India's grandsire, he blended speed and stamina in a way that produced multiple Belmont Stakes winners and Breeders' Cup champions. For a decade, his influence rippled through the US market, setting a template for how commercial data, not just racetrack glory, could turn a stallion into a multi-million-dollar breeding powerhouse. While his $300,000 fee never broke global records, it stood as a testament to the power of the auction ring and the numbers behind the breeding business. Dubawi stands alone as the modern standard-bearer for versatility in European breeding. With a peak advertised fee of £350,000 at Danehill Hall, he commands the highest price tag in the UK, rivaling even the most storied names in the business. What sets Dubawi apart is his rare ability to sire both precocious two-year-old sprinters and classic distance champions. 4 winners of the 2000 Guineas, Macfie, Knight of Thunder, Poetic Flair, and Coroebus, trace their speed and class directly to him. Yet his influence isn't limited to the early classics. Dubawi's progeny have captured major prizes from the Epsom Derby to the Breeders' Cup turf, thriving on both firm and soft ground, across continents and racing styles. His pedigree reads like a blueprint for modern excellence. Sired by Dubai Millennium, who dazzled in the 2000 Dubai World Cup, and out of a Seeking the Gold mare, Dubawi blends the speed of American lines with the stamina of European turf. This dual appeal attracts breeders looking for yearlings that can top the auction ring and still deliver on the track. His stakes winner ratio, over 15% from runners, outpaces most of his rivals, turning his foals into some of the most reliable investments in the sales ring. In an era when the market prizes both commercial flash and classic performance, Dubawi's ongoing success keeps his fee at the very top. He sits at the crossroads of tradition and innovation, his value sustained by a steady stream of elite winners and a pedigree that continues to shape the future of the breed. Frankel's name carries a weight that goes beyond numbers on a page. 14 races, 14 wins. Never beaten, never even threatened in the final strides. That perfect record, achieved against the best of his generation, created an aura that no rival could match. When he retired to Banstead Manor in 2013, his opening stud fee was set at £125,000. Within a decade, demand had pushed that figure to £350,000, equaling the highest ever seen in Britain. But price alone does not tell the story. Frankel's book is deliberately capped at around 130 mares a year, a controlled scarcity that only increases his allure. Every nomination becomes a privilege, not a transaction. His pedigree adds another layer. Sired by Galileo, himself the leading stallion of the modern era, and tracing back through Sadler's Wells to Northern Dancer, Frankel stands at the crossroads of racing's greatest bloodlines. Yet, it's his own brilliance that drives the premium. Timeform awarded him a rating of 147, the highest in their history. Early crops produced Group 1 winners across Europe, proving that his dominance was more than just a flash of brilliance on the track. Frankel's fee matches Dubawi, but his unbeaten streak and the mystique of perfection lift him into rarefied air. Breeders pay for more than genetics. They pay for the chance to capture a piece of racing's untouchable legend. That blend of flawless performance and exclusive access makes Frankel's stud fee not just a number, but a statement of what the very best can command. Galileo's stud career stands as the ultimate case study in sustained excellence and commercial dominance. After winning the Epsom Derby in 2001, Galileo retired to Coolmore with a pedigree that read like a blueprint for turf royalty by Sadler's Wells and Out of Urban Sea, herself a Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe winner. His advertised stud fee soared to €400,000 at its public peak in 2009, with industry insiders reporting private deals as high as €600,000 in later years. Even as economic downturns rattled global markets, Galileo's fee remained unshaken, a testament to his near-mythic reliability. What set Galileo apart was not just the price, but the sheer depth of his influence. More than 100 Group 1 winners bear his name, including legends such as Frankel, Minding, and Australia. His progeny have collected classic wins across Britain, Ireland, and beyond, fueling Coolmore's annual revenue from his services to an estimated €40 million at peak. For breeders, a nomination to Galileo became the gold standard, a ticket to the elite sales rings of Europe and a shot at racing immortality. Unlike stallions whose fees spike and fade with fashion, Galileo's value endured. His books filled with the best mares year after year, and his sons now stand at stud across continents, spreading his impact even further. The fee itself became a point of intrigue, officially listed yet often handled privately, with only the most influential breeders gaining access. In the world of thoroughbred breeding, Galileo's legacy is measured not just in numbers, but in the lasting power of a stallion whose influence continues long after his own racing days ended. Stormcat's name became synonymous with American commercial breeding at its most feverish. By 2002, his stud fee hit an unprecedented $500,000, setting a North American record that stood for years. The path to that number started with a modest launch. Early on, Stormcat's first crop yearlings averaged just under $55,000, drawing steady but not spectacular attention. But as his foals began winning major juvenile races, the market responded with almost unchecked enthusiasm. By the mid-1990s, his yearlings were averaging close to $500,000 at Keeneland, with more than 90 eventually selling for over $1 million apiece. The real engine behind Stormcat's rise was syndication. Overbrook Farm divided his ownership into shares, allowing investors to secure guaranteed nominations each season. As demand for his offspring soared, those shares traded hands at ever-increasing multiples of the annual stud fee. Syndicate members reaped the benefits: priority access, a share of the profits, and the security of owning a piece of what many called the hottest ticket in the business. The model proved so lucrative that when Coolmore joined the syndicate, the price of entry jumped again, and a new round of auction-style hype set the tone for the 2000s. Stormcat's pedigree only added fuel. Sired by Storm Bird, himself a son of Northern Dancer, he carried a blend of speed and precocity that buyers craved. Over his career, Stormcat sired more than 100 stakes winners, including champions on both dirt and turf. Yet the market's frenzy around his stud fee became a story in itself, a perfect storm of auction results, syndicate speculation, and pedigree power. For a stretch of 5 years, $500,000 per cover became the going rate, and the entire US bloodstock market revolved around the question, how much is too much for a shot at the next Stormcat star? Deep Impact's reign at Shaddai Stallion Station stands as the clearest example of how Japan's unique breeding market can propel a stallion's fee to global heights. At his peak, Deep Impact commanded 54 million yen per cover, roughly $540,000 at the time, making him the most expensive sire in Japanese history, and in nominal terms, second only to Northern Dancer worldwide. Unlike the shuttle stallions of Europe and Australia, or the syndication giants in America, Deep Impact's value was driven almost entirely by domestic demand. The Japan Racing Association's closed circuit, a strong yen, and a deep pool of local breeders created a market where outside competition was minimal and the appetite for proven bloodlines was insatiable. His appeal began on the track. Deep Impact swept 7 Group 1 races, including the Japanese Derby and the Japan Cup, dazzling fans with his acceleration and stamina. But the real engine behind his fee was his pedigree. Sired by Sunday Silence, a Kentucky Derby winner who became a national treasure after his controversial export to Japan, Deep Impact embodied the blend of speed and staying power that Japanese breeders prize. His grandsire Halo added another layer of international class. The numbers tell their own story. Deep Impact sired 81 Group 1 winners, a figure unmatched by any other Japanese stallion. Progeny like Gentle Donna, Contrail, and Saxon Warrior captured classics at home and abroad, reinforcing the idea that a nomination to Deep Impact was a ticket to the winner's circle. Yearling auctions reflected this dominance, with his foals routinely topping sales at JBIS and attracting bids that dwarfed those for imported bloodlines. Even brief controversy, a positive test for Ipratropium after the 2006 Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, did nothing to dent his standing. Shadai's careful management and the insular strength of the Japanese market kept demand high. By the late 2010s, Deep Impact's fee, denominated in yen, regularly outpaced its dollar and euro counterparts in raw terms, a testament to the power of currency and the singular structure of Japanese racing. His era set a regional benchmark, and his legacy endures not just in the record books, but in the bloodlines that continue to shape the sport across continents. Northern Dancer stands as the defining figure in modern thoroughbred breeding, not only for his own achievements, but for the way he transformed the economics of the stallion world. Foaled in 1961, bred in Canada from Nearctic and descending from the Near-Co line, he burst onto the scene with a record-setting Kentucky Derby win in 1964, finishing in 2 minutes flat and followed with a Preakness victory. Yet his greatest influence began after his racing days ended. By the 1980s, Northern Dancer's name had become synonymous with excellence. Windfield's Farm set his private stud fee at $1 million per cover from 1984 to 1986, a figure that, adjusted for inflation, reaches about $3.1 million today. No stallion before or since has matched that nominal peak. The demand for his offspring was unmatched. He sired 147 stakes winners, a record that set the bar for generations. His sons and grandsons became the foundation of pedigrees across continents, producing classic winners and leading sires in Europe, North America, and beyond. Northern Dancer's value lay in his ability to pass on both speed and adaptability. His progeny excelled on turf and dirt at every distance. Breeders and buyers from around the world competed fiercely for his yearlings, driving prices to unprecedented heights at sales in Keeneland and Newmarket. In the mid-1980s, the Northern Dancer bubble saw yearling prices soar, only to collapse in 1985 when values dropped by half almost overnight. Even this correction could not diminish his influence. His influence is woven through the modern stud fee rankings. His direct male line produced Sadler's Wells, Danehill, Galileo, and many others who themselves set records for both price and progeny. Nearly every top stallion today traces some part of their pedigree to him. The cascade of his bloodline, from the 1960s onward, created a self-reinforcing cycle. As each new champion emerged, demand for the source only grew. Northern Dancer's $1 million fee marked the moment breeding economics changed forever, setting a standard that endures. Across all 10 stallions, one pattern stands out. In horse racing, the true fortunes are built not on the track, but in the breeding shed. Bloodlines become global currency, with legendary sires commanding fees higher than most purses. That legacy shapes every future champion, proving that in this world, pedigree is power. Which stallion surprised you most? Let us know in the comments.